Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Iron Canon podcast, your home for in-depth discussion on the lore, the narrative, and the big ideas of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Matthew, and I'm coming to you from Underworld North Studio in Toronto. And as always, I'm joined from across the continent by your friend and mine, Mr. Joel Davis. Joel, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty well. The sun was out. It was a pretty nice day. So, yes, can't complain. Overall, pretty nice day.
Yeah, I also went outside.
Ooh.
It's not always a thing I do, but I do it. But also, if you can believe it, 2026. It's only a month away. We're now on December 1st. So
Woo!
it's only a month away. And you know what, Joel, a new year is always a good time to consider getting into new things, right? Or maybe helping your friends get into some new things, resolutions, and all that. So, uh, dear audience, if you're or someone you know is hoping to get into a new to you or new to them part of Star Wars, we've got you covered this week. We're looking back on the last 49 years of screen stories, the last 11 years of the new canon, but more importantly, the upcoming 13 months. There we go. I got in 13 months of new shows, books,
Yay!
comics, and yeah, I hear there's a film coming out to pick out the best Star Wars arm ramps for 2026. We'll get into that in just a bit. First off, got the plugs. You can follow us on Blue Sky at Ion Canon, EYEONCANON, Blue Sky social. For Instagram, Twitter, all your fun news and updates on everything else. Check out at the SWU, and for comics at the Tractor Beam on Blue Sky as well. Yeah, check that out. Prefer audio to listen to podcasts, supposed to watch them. Then hop on over to YouTube podcast right now. I think it's already there, and then right after, as we record, it goes live, I believe, to YouTube audio as well. And then after we record this, after we go live here tonight, I will pop this up onto Spotify and Apple Podcasts and I think a few other podcatchers. So just search for Ion Cannon Podcast in the podcatcher. Oh, sorry, of your choice. I did have my decaf, I promise. Of course, we're proudly part of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network here on the Underworld YouTube channel. We got memberships, we got super chats. So comment down below whenever you want. But if you super chat us, we'll get there immediately. Last but not least, second last but not least, we are on the Underworld. We got the Underworld Discord server. Lots of conversations going on. I get notifications all the time, which is great. Get the social content there, talking Star Wars, talking different theories, Joel, that you have, and game nights, movie nights, D&D nights. What's all going on in that there Discord server?
Last week we took a bit of a break. We did have someone host a game night. I'll probably be back this week for a game night. I've been a little
Yes.
quiet since my co-Discord administrator Ben has been on vacation in
That's right.
Hawaii.
He's in Hawaii.
But
Bonkers.
we'll hopefully get
Yeah.
back on game night soon.
Mhm.
And yeah, be on the lookout for that and more.
Yes. And speaking of taking a break, usually Wednesdays, right here on this YouTube channel, etc., at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Chris Abbott and I go over the comic books that came out that day, or we catch up on things we missed. But this week, I got tickets to a musical. I won free
Ooh,
tickets to a musical. So
which
I mean,
one?
it's called Anne Juliet. I think it's sort of I don't know if it's a Hallmark thing, but it's like I don't know, Shakespeare adjacent sort of. So
Nice.
I don't really know much about it, but what it's about. But I win free tickets. It'll be fun. I'm taking friend of the pod, Ash, and I'm gonna go. So it's gonna be good old friendly time. And yeah, so normally, and then the next week, Joel, you're gonna hop on for Legacy Vader and some other sequel era content there. So yeah, join us in a week and a half on the Tractor Beam Comics reviews. Please do follow us there on the Blue Sky at the Tractor Beam. Yeah, the Tractor Beam, and search Tractor Beam Comics reviews or the Tractor Beam Star Wars Comics podcast. Sorry, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all that fun stuff, fun places. So yeah, check that out. All right. It's been a week in Star Wars, I guess, because it's been a week. Joel, you have thoughts as always, so take it away.
Matthew, is Star Wars special anymore? It's special to me, dang it. Um, you hear the sentiment a lot from people online. And there's always a bajillion reasons why. You never know.
Yes.
Some maybe more weird and bigoted than others. They're just people just, but I don't want to put everyone in that box, of course.
Mhm.
Uh, although I tend to find a little bit of a correlation between the two. Um, but I've been thinking about this sentiment,
Mhm.
and you could always say, well, it's the quality, but I think that's too easy, and I think
Yeah,
A, quality subjective, and B, well, they can keep making it for regardless.
it's
So
true.
I feel like there are kind of two, and you can hear this for every franchise. I hear this for
Mhm.
Marvel. Probably hear this in Star Trek circles sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of it comes from kind of two places, especially for
Mhm.
Star Wars. I can't speak for the others, especially for Star Wars. Kind of one or two places. First, and this is one I think that all franchises have to deal with, and I don't think anyone can truly. A lot of people can't really wrap their heads around. Is Matthew? I
Mhm.
have to tell you something. We're getting old. I
Speak
know.
for yourself, sir.
But
I'm only 40.
you're a spry 40 and I'm a spryer baby 30.
Mhm.
Um, but it, but in all seriousness, right? I
Yeah.
think look, we're always looking for that childhood nostalgia when we're going to the movies and
Mhm.
whatnot when they're releasing new ones, and it's like, but we're not 12 anymore. We're
Mhm.
not even, or whatever age you were when you
Yeah.
first saw whatever your first Star Wars was. Not everyone was 12. Some people were younger. We're not at that age anymore. It's like even people who like are trying to read all the High Republic and used to read NGO. Like, why can't I read this 30, 100 book series? I don't think it's 100 book series of High Republic when I did it with NGO and I was only 18. It's like, well, you're 30 now. You weren't a teenager when you were reading NGO, and it was
Mm.
easier back then.
Yeah.
Um,
Life responsibilities and other things.
exactly. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Mhm.
Just time is a thing that moves. You grow, hopefully. Your taste
Ideally.
change. Ideally,
Yeah.
you change. You
Yeah.
know, it's Marvel's dealing with the same thing with like the kids who were 13 watching Iron Man in 2008 are 30 now, and Secret
Mhm.
Wars is coming out. And that's a franchise
That's it.
that didn't have a big gap that went away.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of when it comes to like Marvel, like like people who aren't connected with Marvel, I mean, there's probably a million reasons, but like, yeah, you're not 13 anymore.
Mhm.
Um, so there's that.
Yeah.
And then the second thing, and this is more of a Star Wars thing than the others. Although I think the first one applies universally, with the age thing applies universally, but the second thing I think applies more for Star Wars is, well, of course, it's not going to be special when you're getting a major release every gosh dang year.
Mhm.
You can talk about the separation between movie and streaming all you want, but like we've gotten at least one major live action Star Wars once a year since
Mhm.
2014, not 2014, since 2015, nonstop. And if you just want to be broad about it, Star Wars has never went away. When you really think about it, Star Wars never went away, especially like around the 1990s with the
Yeah.
EU, and then by the time you get to the prequels, it's like there's always something: games, books, comics. When you actually break it down, the space between Revenge of the Sith and Clone Wars 2008 was like what, 3 years, five, six, seven, eight, give or take,
Like in terms of like the
in terms of
the
having the weight,
oh yeah, 3 years. Yeah.
right? So, you know, Star Wars has just never really gone away. Even when Disney
Mhm.
bought it, it's like what, 1 year of like maybe a quiet period, and then Rebels in
Yeah.
2014, and then all the other stuff, and then obviously
Mhm.
Force Awakens in 2015. So, to some extent, it's like, well, if you were used to kind of Star Wars was only the big movies, and then
Mhm.
uh, then it goes away for a long time. It's like, well, that's not coming back because they're gonna keep having major releases at least once a year until either they stop making money forever or
Right.
until the world explodes. And one of those things is more likely to happen than the other.
Otherwise,
So of course it's not gonna
yeah.
be feel special when they keep releasing it every year. And it's
Mhm.
sort of like, well, that's the question I think Star Wars fans need to ask themselves is, well, do you want the ongoing onslaught of Star Wars, even if it's just
Right.
one major movie and maybe one streaming show a year with some animated
Mhm.
shows? Or are you willing to make the sacrifice and say, you know what, I'm okay with not having major Star Wars releases and just years of just nothing
Yeah.
before a major release or trilogy? And well, that's I mean, hey, if you feel that way, then it's fine. That's legit
Mhm.
your opinion. Um, but yeah, that is kind of the way a franchise goes. It's either it never goes away, like with Star Trek, even where you've kind of had a
Mhm.
good steady stream of Star Trek shows, really
Yeah.
since Discovery. I mean, if you want to go back to even the JJ films, you can. 'Cause I don't think the wait was that long. At least I remember it not being that long.
Between JJ films.
Well, let's
Yeah,
see.
or like after like Discover from sorry.
Well, you had the first big hiatus after Nemesis,
Yeah.
and then the Abrams films, and then I don't know what the period between the second Abrams films and Discovery was. I don't feel like it was that long.
No, but it felt kind of long. I don't know.
Maybe in
Yeah.
retrospect, but if you actually
Yeah.
look at the timeline, it probably
True.
was like '09 to Discovery was a year, or I don't remember when Discovery started.
No, it was longer than that. But well, like Beyond. I mean, Search Beyond. Anyway.
Beyond, I'm sorry, the Star Trek Beyond, but yeah, but
Mhm.
no, the Star Trek Discovery, the show,
Yeah, but
that
like
was
the third film.
that was 2017. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I was wrong. Okay, so since Discovery, at least to today, there's
Yes.
pretty steady stream of Star Trek shows. So
Yeah.
again, I think those are kind of like whenever someone says Star Wars isn't special anymore, I think, dude, or
Hmm.
my friend, you gotta just ask yourself, well, one, you're getting older, I would assume.
Hmm.
You know, you're not 12, you're not a kid. Things are just gonna change naturally. 'Cause I especially hear this from older people. Very rarely do I hear this from the younger people.
Yeah.
And two, well, yeah, there's been a Star Wars now every year, at least a major Star Wars live action thing, for the
Hmm.
past several years since 2015, a steady stream of it. And that's not even
Sure.
counting the animated shows and when we have movies and shows and all the other
Hmm.
books and comics and games. So yeah, it hasn't went away. It's never gone away.
Hmm.
So what do you expect? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of my psychoanalysis of fandom and the whole "it's not special anymore" kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
in some ways, I guess maybe they're right. But it's like, well, what do you want? What do
Yeah.
you?
Exactly. Um. Yeah. Well, first off, so Star Trek Beyond is the third in the Abrams verse of the Kelvin verse.
When did that come out? Well, I'll look it up and
Those so
I'll.
those no, I got it. It was 2016. So
Okay.
Discovery, but I mean that's a similar thing with Star Wars, right? In that, I mean, kind of different ownership, but also a different group of folks. Like they parked that bus. Like the J.J. Abrams folks parked the bus, got out, and then you had other people driving the bus, which is I'm happy with. But it's true, yeah. There's that. I think I even saw in the discourse you guys were chatting about Star Wars for all people, and so you have a thing for everyone. And therefore, that means that by a percentage, this is kind of the psychoanalysis of it here. By a percentage of it, there's less Star Wars for me, by proportion, which rankles some people because they're selfish or they're just want to just they
What
want to
does Star
love
Wars for
everything.
me want? Right? What does that mean?
Yeah, like so. For example, folks in their 30s who don't like Skeleton Crew because it's about kids, which is odd because I mean that Skeleton Crew is a show that taps into everything that makes Star Wars great. The childlike wonder and adventure being thrust out. It's one of the purest Star Wars that's come out in the Disney era, I'd say. Oddly
So
enough,
it's really good.
yeah,
I gotta rewatch it. It's really good.
yeah, and sorry, the whole thing about but that's the odd thing though is that what they remember is the feeling they got as kids seeing it. Probably not for the first time because they can't remember that. I'm probably too young. I don't remember the first time I saw Star Wars, but they seeing it as a child, they remember that, and then they watched it again, or they watch something else that comes out, and they don't get that feeling, and so they think, "Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's
Mhm.
not that good." I mean, that is exactly what happened in 1999. People
Oh,
walked in the theaters expecting to feel something that they felt 16, 20 years, whatever years earlier, and they didn't. And so, I mean, I did. I was 15, 14. I clearly did feel something, and then I got caught up in all the hate for no good reason. But yeah, that's at the heart of it. Now, another thing to say though is it isn't the biggest franchise anymore, right? That's it isn't the highest profile. Maybe in 2015 it was for a bit. Certainly in 2005 it
Mhm.
was, and 1980, 1983. I mean 1977 it took over.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But even Mandalorian and Grogu, it's going to be, and well, maybe even here's the interesting. I mean, Last Jedi and Rogue One, Last Jedi, Rogue One to Rise of Skywalker, were they the biggest films of those years?
I
Maybe
don't
by
think.
box office, but by popularity, by zeitgeist, maybe maybe not.
I don't. Well, I think we
Yeah.
also. I mean, there is this kind of the third. I mean, I guess you brought up a really good third point, and I'm even
Mhm.
going to include the prequels in this to some extent.
Yeah.
Um, so original trilogy had the benefit of nothing else was like it,
Yeah.
and then everything was copying Star Wars. When the prequels came out, I mean, they were big, and obviously they were in the
Mhm.
zeitgeist. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but you also got to remember the early 2000s. You also had Harry Potter was starting up, Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
the Raimi Spider-Man movies, the
The
X-Men
Matrix,
films, the
also
Matrix.
1999.
The
Right.
Matrix. So Star Wars was now entering a new era where
Hmm.
it wasn't the standout; it was kind of the norm.
Yeah.
And you kind of had other things, and the Pirates films. The Pirates films, those were big.
Right.
Um, you know, so those were coming out, and then during the first wave, you still had Marvel. DC was kind of in the pits.
Yeah.
X-Men was kind of up and down depending on who you had. So you had mostly Marvel.
Yeah.
Was the Hobbit films happening around that time? I don't remember. We had a lot of the same things
Yeah. Kind of
happening,
around there. Yeah.
and today is again, and I don't think this is, I don't think I don't think this is necessarily a quality thing. I think it's just something we got to deal with. Is
Yeah.
Harry Potter's coming back with the HBO show. It's probably going to bump. We got Rings of Power. I don't know how big that is, but it's happening. Star Trek's still going.
Hmm.
Yeah, DC looks like it's finally getting its act together. Marvel, it might have had some bumps, but it's still steady as she goes. I don't think I don't think the ship is
Hmm.
sinking on Marvel as many people say it
No.
is.
And
Um,
DC's up.
and DC's going
I
up.
will admit that.
Yeah, DC's going up. Thank God. Thank you, James Gunn.
Yeah.
What else has happened? And every now and again you get the Avatar films. I mean, there's the thing.
Yeah.
This is
That's
part of
coming
the.
out.
Look, I think Star Wars being big event things where like everyone's going to see it, like the Odyssey. That's not going to come back unless Star Wars just goes away for like forever,
Yeah.
right? Like, or like it's like, or like the
Yeah.
Avatar. Like, it's not going to be that ever again unless like the greatest Star Wars film has ever made, or Star
Mhm.
Wars just goes away completely for years and years, and no one expects it to come
That'd
back,
be
and it
so.
comes back.
Well,
Um,
that
and
was the Force Awakens, right?
I mean, that was the Force Awakens. I think that was
Yeah.
kind of the last time Star Wars was ever that.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's just gonna happen. So yeah, I think you also gonna have to factor in the times.
Hmm.
It's just we live in a different ecosystem now of pop culture. It's not the
Yeah.
80s anymore. It's not even the 90s, and even then, even with the prequels, where I do think those were pretty big. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
they were still kind of semi-competing with other
Hmm.
things. I mean, here's a fun little factoid. Um, Revenge of the Sith came out the same year as Batman Begins, and while Batman
Yep.
Begins was not big compared to Revenge of the Sith, I do think that was like zeitgeist-wise bigger.
Hmm.
That is the first Nolan film. And then 2008, Dark Knight hits, and I don't know if you remember Dark Knight Mania,
Oh
but I
yeah.
do. So I mean that was Star Wars already considered over by then, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean, right? So it was a different world even with the prequels, and it's
Hmm.
certainly a different world today.
Yeah. I mean, what you're hitting on there is also what I was thinking, that in 1977, this uh like Flash Gordon pulp sci-fi thing
Yeah.
was finally able to punch through into the mainstream.
Oh yeah.
And 1980,
Almost won,
1983,
got nominated for Best Picture.
yeah, like it's punching through into the mainstream. By 1999, like you said, with, I mean, well, even a few years before with Jurassic Park, and
Oh yeah.
and then Phantom Menace and The Matrix, and
Mhm.
a bunch of Star Trek films as well. Slowly starting to transition, like you're saying, into this new ecosystem where now, uh, you know, Infinity War? How much did that make? Endgame? How did that make? Like, how big are these conventions? Right?
Right.
Like they take over. I mean, San Diego Comic Con takes over San Diego, and it was great to see that firsthand. But
Mhm.
like Fan Expo Canada, folks who don't really follow stuff, they'll know if you live downtown Toronto, they'll know it's on, right? They'll know what's going on.
Mhm.
Um, how studios pumping how much money into San Diego Comic Con, New York Comic Con, right?
Okay.
Having that kind of presence.
Mhm.
So to say it is now the mainstream,
Mhm.
right? So I mean the explosion of Star Wars podcasts on YouTube, whatever, you know. So that's another thing is there is this such thing as this underdog mentality, which we kind of still have a little bit, right? It's funny. I do gravitate towards this too, right? I mean, I have by that I mean it's fun to be this minority trying to punch up in a way of in the sense of not saying I'm a minority ethnically or anything like that. What I mean is say being a Star Wars fan among soccer fans and being a soccer fan among hockey
Mm.
and football, basketball fans, which I don't mind those sports either. But right, like in North America, being a soccer fan isn't as big. Maybe it will be next year too. But it's it even 20 10 10 15 years ago it was even smaller. So that's also to say then, oh, you're another Star Wars fan, great. Now that's why a podcast like this is interesting
Mhm.
because and a podcast like Tractor Beam is interesting because we have to find this niche within the Star Wars fandom. Now we're the minority again, right?
Well,
We're the ones who read
it's
the books. We're the ones who read the comics, all
yeah,
that. So
it's the interesting, and this could be a topic on its own. I don't
mhm,
want to drag it out too much,
yeah.
but it's an interesting paradox with Star Wars
Hmm.
because Star Wars was never niche. Okay, you can't call the biggest movie in 1977 that got nominated for Best Picture
No,
niche, and the
what I
sequel that did
mean,
better. But
can I
I do.
clarify what you mean? What
Uh,
I mean by that?
oh, yeah,
I mean it was the exception,
yeah.
not the rule. Anyway,
And it
so go ahead.
and it definitely began the trend of, like, getting those kind of blockbuster movies made
Hmm.
afterwards, like, that's
Yeah.
where Terminator, Alien, the whole
Hmm.
'80s genre kinda came into being,
Sure.
He-Man, um, but, yeah, I mean, it's the irony because I feel like, again,
Hmm.
it as a Star Wars fan, I feel like we wanna feel like we're kind of the nerdy niche people,
Hmm.
but Star Wars is, like, the biggest thing ever, and it still is, like, it's not like the thing that got big over time. It like no, Star Wars was always big. It was the most popular
Hmm.
thing it's still the biggest pop culture movie ever. It's still
Hmm.
Americana.
Yeah.
Even if there was
Sure.
never another Star Wars made,
Hmm.
after 77, it still probably would have been that big movie everyone remembered, along with The Godfather and
Yeah.
you know stuff like that, and the original Jurassic Park. I mean, like it would have still had lots of cultural relevance to this day. I mean, look at
Hmm.
there's 7 Jurassic Park movies, varying quality, but the original is still
Yeah.
beloved to this day. People still
Oh yeah.
watch it. Even the Indiana Jones movies.
Hmm.
Um, so Star
Hmm.
Wars is not niche, but I think here's the thing: Star Wars is not niche. There are things in Star Wars that people don't know about, and we're going to
Hmm.
talk about them later today,
Hmm.
later soon.
Hmm.
So I think that it has a bit of an odd mentality for fans, where it's like, I'm a Star Wars fan. I feel like I'm in the secret club, but like, buddy, Star Wars is like one of the most popular movies
Yeah.
and franchises of all time. It's never been this niche thing. Comics
Hmm.
have had more niche than that, and even
Yeah.
then, not by much.
Yeah. That's kind. I mean, that's yeah, kind of what I'm getting at in the sense. Yeah. Well,
You were
I
never
see.
an underdog. We've always been on top.
So I mean,
Or
that's the thing. It's
we've
this
always been
sort
the
of
establishment. We've always
yeah. It's like I don't want to say false consciousness, but it's not being as aware of what the reality is. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my whole when people say Star Wars is special, not special anymore. It's special to me, darn it.
Yeah.
Psychoanalysis.
There we go. these parts things are special to me. So anyway, yeah, interesting topic. That's definitely something we could chat about in the new year. Keep on stewing over that one. Yeah, so my thing, as mentioned on there, I finally finished Master of Evil by Adam Christopher. Well, after you did.
Months after I did.
Finished it last night. We're going to talk about it full episode next week. Spoiler alert. But give my kind of initial spoiler free thoughts here. Is this is maybe the best thing I'd say. It ended really well. It had some questionable things in the middle, but I kind of like maybe I'll save this. I don't want to be too spoilery, but I think there's something in it that at the end that could disappoint people.
Mm-hmm.
But and I'll message you after, Joel, and anyone who's read it wants to know what I'm talking about, and let me know. Could disappoint people, but kind of, I mean, really not going in that direction, kind of in a way to fit with the canon, because this has to pick up with Vader number 6 right after this. Charles Soule's Vader number 6. So, I thought actually that last throne room scene there, that was actually pretty funny, pretty great. That the point of view character, I thought he was really moving, even though you could predict what's going to happen to him. I thought that was really, really well written, really kind of really surprising. Like, Darth Vader isn't actually the main character of this book, which that isn't surprising, but I didn't know what to expect with this Holland Goth character. So that's what I got. Maybe would have liked a little more ISB stuff. Kind of feeling a sequel. Feeling a sequel somehow involving that, or a prequel or something. Not ISB, Comp Noir. Like a Comp Noir. I want Adam Christopher to write a Comp Noir novel now. Why not? So yeah, those are my thoughts. My two major critiques. There are two things in it that I think it would have been would have flowed better, would have been more gripping if we didn't know what was happening. Because there's some things where we know what's going on, but the characters don't. And it might have been good if we had that surprise reveal as well. So that was kind of my major thought in the middle chunk of the book, why it kind of sagged. But yeah, great ending, which is interesting to think. I say this a lot. It's hard to finish a story. It is, and yet I was telling Dom about this, talking about the book yesterday. These novels often end up picking it up at the end. So this one did, I think. That corporation, the sniveling, hello, whatever. I don't know how the audiobook sounds, but yeah, this is what she does. It's not ridiculous. The CEO of this corporation. Yeah, I thought that was funny. So yeah, some good world building, adding some good world building, and yeah, that prologue was, again, the prologue gives away something that would be good to be more of a mystery, but yeah, I thought, oh, yeah, this character, didn't expect him to be there. So those are my incredibly vague, ruthlessly vague, non-spoilery thoughts on Master of Evil. I don't know what you think of it. What you think of my non-spoilery thoughts, and obviously we're going to go into spoilers next week. But what are your kind of thoughts in response?
Yeah, this book could have, and I still feel like I felt this way anyway, could have easily been dragged down, which by just overall Vader fatigue and a little bit of well, we've been here before. He's done this so many times.
I did feel that a little bit for a bit.
Like, come on, how many times do you have to do this?
Yeah.
But I do think that having Vader not be the point of view character throughout the book was the smart move. I think it saves it from completely just me going, well, we've been here before. I'm tired of this. Or I have a Charles Soule comic. Why are we getting a book version of it? Just tracking the same ground.
Or Kieran Gillen comic, or
I feel like, I mean, I thought the ending was fine. I feel like though I don't know. I felt a little let down by
Hmm,
the end. I felt like I wish it could have gone to different places or maybe
interesting.
explored some other things a little bit more. Um,
Hmm,
but it didn't seem like it was allowed to, or they had to held back or something. Um, Probably
hmm.
because of the book. I did
Yeah,
like a lot of the. I thought the beginning was really strong, and I thought a lot of the world building at the start was
yeah.
really strong. As well.
Hmm,
So it's definitely well written and well paced. For the most part,
yeah.
I thought I didn't have trouble reading it.
Mm,
It get a little predictable by the end, I thought,
mm,
but yeah, I mean it's a good book and I would recommend it.
yeah,
I just feel like Vader fatigue was settling in a little bit with this one.
yeah,
Where I felt like I feel like I've read this story. We've been done this story before. How many
yeah,
times do they have to do this? But that's about it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, and
Hmm.
somewhat spoilery, but not super spoilery. For anyone who's listening to the audio, they get Catherine Tabor to voice Padme, but you'll see
Nice.
why.
Yeah,
That's all I'll say about that.
yeah. I actually, yeah, I'm gonna burn an audible credit just to hear that. One thing I will say, the thing I think you're thinking about, and we'll get into spoilers next week. The thing I think you're thinking about the Vader fatigue. I mean, I did get that even with Greg Pak's comic a little bit. Um, the first time that we see that happening, I'm like, oh, this again, really?
Mhm.
The second time gives a different angle to it, and gets in behind the curtain of what Vader's motivation, what is how he sees the world, how he sees uh, everything that's gone on. So uh, yeah, I like that he added a bit of an angle to it, a bit of a wrinkle to it at the end. But yeah, I definitely agree with some of that. So yeah, all in all, a good book. Um, in a year of absolutely stunningly great books, and that's if this was the only Star Wars novel that come out, yeah, we'd be like, this was fantastic, which was pretty good. But we got Mask of Fear, we got Trials of the Jedi, we got all
I
these.
keep forgetting the sequel to that is next year.
Yeah, next fall.
Wait
So
till the fall. Ugh.
well, 'cause it was going to be in the spring, but Rebecca Roanhorse needs more time, which is
All
good.
right.
So yeah.
And you can.
So yeah, those are my thoughts. Again, tune in next week, where speaking of Ash comes on and chats about this book with us, and yeah, we're gonna dive into that. That's a book that came out in 2025. Guess what, guys? As I mentioned, it's almost 2026. So Joel, take it away.
I know. It's almost 2026, guys. Oop, and I got some. Oh, I thought I had some schmutz on me with the computer. Um, yeah, 2026, a year to get into new things, or maybe help your friends get into things you like.
Yeah.
So the question we have to ask ourselves in the year of our immortal gods, 2026, the Father, the Daughter, the Son, and the Holy Anakin, is how the heck do you get into Star Wars these days? Because by the end of 2026, and I did count, I think I'm right, we will have 12 films, 7 live action streaming shows, 5 animated series, and a whole heck of a lot of books and comics to count, plus some video games.
Hmm.
I didn't count the books and comics. I didn't count
Yeah.
that. Too many. Whole
I mean, how many long runs? How many ongoing runs? How many short runs? Yeah.
exactly. So it looks overwhelming from the outside in. I mean, I could see
Yeah.
someone being like, "I don't know where to start."
Hmm.
Ah.
It's interesting.
So
Hmm.
that's my casual audience voice. So we here at the Ion Canon podcast
Yes.
want to help you, the listener or the viewer, get into Star Wars. So
Hmm.
Star Wars is like a swimming pool. You got the shallow end of the pool,
Yeah.
and you got the deep end of the pool, and then you got Young Jedi Adventures, which is the kiddie pool. That kiddie pool's awesome. So don't poo poo the kiddie pool. Kiddie pool can be awesome.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
so question is, where do you start? And I think we start at the core, the center of it all. Why isn't
Hmm.
my watch going? Okay, here we go. The center of it all, and that is the saga. And this is the only place where I am like firm in my beliefs, and then everywhere else I'm going to start waffling. Um, where I I believe firmly
Mhm.
that the most shallow. I mean, that sounds terrible saying the most shallow.
Yeah, I know what I
The
mean.
easiest end of the pool to dip your toes in
Mhm.
is the saga, because
Yeah.
everything kind of branches out from the saga. You kind of need to know the saga in order to kind of understand anything else.
Mhm.
And it's easiest to watch because as of now there are 9 movies. Honestly,
Yeah.
some might argue you need to just watch 6. But there are 9 movies of the official Star Wars saga, and everything from that branches out. We can debate. We
Mhm.
can have a whole podcast debating what order and whatnot, and release order or chronological, machete,
Mhm.
Russian doll, alphabetical, backwards order.
Alphabetical order.
I know.
I need to do that now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Would you start with Attack of the Clones or New Hope, or
Oh.
would you count that as Star Wars? Then you do have to talk with Attack of the Clones because it would be A, right? Right?
That's the funniest thing you said in what 3, 4 years, 5 years of doing this podcast. Sorry, sorry. Keep
I
going.
mean, think about all the those. The Empire Strikes Back, The Last Jedi, The Rise of
Okay,
Skywalker.
we got to do this tangent right now, guys. Okay, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Yes, yes. I don't count but Star Wars is A New Hope. So
Okay.
it's A New Hope, then Attack of the Clones, then I don't know list of Star Wars films.
Oh shoot. I don't know. I don't want to. Yeah, well, we'll figure that out some other time.
Yeah.
I will write that down on a list later, and I will send it to Matthew if I remember.
Okay.
Uh,
Sorry, I got to
yeah.
figure that one out. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
I hit my funny bone. Anyway.
uh,
Yes, sir. Okay. And scene.
okay.
And scene.
Okay. Okay.
Keep going.
But
Mhm.
regardless,
Yes.
you should start with the saga.
Yeah.
That is the corest of the
Mm.
core, and quite frankly, that's all you kind of need to. Oh, I
Mm.
have the answer. I have the answer. I have the answer.
Okay.
Sorry, tangent. Okay,
You
A
did
New
it. You did
Hope,
it. Yes.
Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
Okay, they use the. This list uses the. So the Empire Strikes Back,
Okay.
The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, The Phantom Menace, The Rise of Skywalker, then Return of the Jedi, and it ends with Revenge of the Sith.
And
Okay.
then down now. All right. Well, we're gonna have
Okay.
to figure out the without the does, but anyway.
Okay. But
Amazing.
anyway. But yeah, that's where I
Sorry.
think you should start with the saga.
Yes.
And honestly,
Okay.
if you want to drop out afterwards, that's fine. But
Mhm.
know that there's a wider Star Wars galaxy beyond
Yeah.
those 9 films. So, Matthew, now that you
Yeah.
calmed yourself, and you do your alphabetical order,
I'm actually
yeah.
tearing up.
Oh God.
So ridiculous. Sorry.
I
Okay.
mean, it'd be funny.
Yeah.
What do you think of just you start with the saga regardless? Forget the
Yeah.
orders. Just you start with the saga.
So I mean, it depends on how old you are.
Mhm.
I think if you're an adult, yeah, you should start with the saga. Um, the fact is, though, and this is kind of what we're getting into. Some folks they don't. They start with the Mandalorian because they're like, "Oh, this Mandalorian show. I'm gonna watch this. Oh, it's pretty cool." And it was designed to be that way, right?
Mhm.
I think Ahsoka similarly, and we'll get into this, but Ahsoka season 1, I think, does a great job catching everyone up on some things. Not everything, clearly, but yeah, I think, yeah, that. I mean, yeah, it's one of those obvious answer, the right answer things. I think if you're younger, you could start with Clone Wars. If you're Ahsoka's age in Clone Wars, you could start with Clone Wars because then that'll lead you out into something bigger. If you're my niece's age, you start with Young Jedi Adventures, and that's all you see so far.
Right.
But yeah, ultimately, adults, or the Lego special, right?
Right.
Ultimately, adults, yeah, you watch the films. Yeah, I don't know what order, but definitely not alphabetical order. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be funny, but I mean, I feel like I watched them in alphabetical
I
order.
mean, Dom basically did, right? He did A New Hope, and then he did Attack of the Clones. Remember that story?
Oh, okay. So maybe. Well, well, okay. I mean,
Accidentally.
I'll end with my cop out answer to all
Yeah.
of this at the end because
Mm,
cause like
yeah.
let's pretend. Okay, so with this scenario, let's kind of pretend we are working with more or less adults,
Mhm.
and we're
Yeah.
kind or people or friends our age,
That's true. Yeah, that's fair.
and we want to have like a controlled environment,
Mhm,
as controlled as we possibly can.
mhm.
Maybe I should speculate that because otherwise,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a cop out answer for kind of just randomness.
Mhm,
But for the controlled answer, yeah, I think the saga is where you start
mhm.
because I think ultimately it is the core of the story. It kind of everything kind of branches off from it. It's the
Yeah,
simplest to understand to some extent. Um,
true.
characters will come in from the saga will always pop in and out for the most
Mhm.
part. Some don't, some will.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's kind of everything kind of ties back into it to some extent.
Mhm,
Um, some more than others for sure, but it kind of all builds together. So yeah, that's why I would say the saga
mhm.
start first, and then this is where I think things get interesting because then kind of like after the saga, then I feel like then
Right.
you've unlocked, you have now leveled up. I feel like a video game. You've leveled up. You
Mhm,
now can watch the other things.
mhm.
Where do you start?
Right.
So, in my opinion, I always suggest do at least one of the anthology films. I always say start
Mm,
with the films in general,
interesting.
especially if you're an adult, because films are just easier to watch. They really are. I feel like we're gonna notice something like this happen when we get Mandalorian and Grogu and Star Wars kind of
Interesting.
goes back to films because it's easier just to watch 2 hours of movies than it is hours and hours and hours of streaming shows or animated shows or really any TV really. Um, I find myself having trouble watching
Interesting.
TV more than I do watching movies. Although I'm just lazy, so that just might be a me problem.
Yeah, I'll say I'm the opposite, but keep going.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm lazy, but I feel like for most people, I find at least it's easier
Mhm,
to watch a movie than watch a show. And I think the
mm.
anthology films are kind of well. Hey, I mean, they came out before the streaming show, so in terms of just
True.
production order, they happened
Mhm.
first. I think Rogue One is like also a kind of a really good place to like watch because
Yeah.
it's set in the original trilogy, so you got your familiarity, but also now you're seeing a little bit of a deeper side of Star Wars. You're kind of
Mhm,
seeing more the mechanics of how the world works and like
mhm.
how kind of the grand mythology of it all kind of gets a little more technical, a little more like what's the inner machinations of the empire and how that's all
Mhm.
run. And obviously
Yeah.
we get to see Vader's lair, Vader's castle on Mustafar, which you'll recognize Mustafar because you watched the saga first. Um, you're gonna get to see how the rebels did find the Death Star plans.
Mhm,
So uh I think Rogue One especially will be a very easier
mhm,
kind of movie to understand and kind of get like a little bit of a deeper aspect of Star Wars.
mhm.
Solo's interesting. I think Solo's another easy one to watch. Outside of maybe getting a little confused at how the heck Darth Maul's alive,
Mhm. Yeah.
which maybe that'll make more maybe instead of like maybe that will perk your interest to watch the Clone Wars more than it will make you confused because that's another thing I think we don't talk about enough with the live action stuff is, you know, instead of being afraid to put stuff from the more niche aspects of Star Wars into your more mainstream stuff,
Mhm.
maybe you should put more niche stuff in it, and maybe instead of people being confused, maybe people will actually have an interest in seeing it or reading it. They'll most likely seeing it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's already on all Disney Plus, so it's not like it's all in one big place anyway. Maybe watching maybe seeing Maul perk your interest in watching the Clone Wars and finding out how this guy who I thought died is actually alive and talking to Kira. Although you might
Hallelujah.
although you might be sad that that Solo doesn't get to continue on. At least at least the in
Yeah.
between part. But I definitely think at least I would start with the two anthology
Mhm.
films. Also because stuff from the anthology films comes into the streaming show anyway. Um, but also again, they're 2-hour movies, more or less. I find most people think movies are easier to watch than shows. In general, because I think TV is just a bigger commitment for most people,
Mm.
especially when they're like long seasons. Especially back when TV was TV. not
Right.
this 8 episodes thing.
Back in my day.
And back in my day, we had 22 episodes a season, and we had
Yeah,
120 episodes of Deep Space Nine. We had to watch through that stuff before we got to the good stuff.
done right.
You know, um, but I think that would just be easier to do.
Hmm.
And then if you want to commit more, then we can kind of start talking about the show. But yeah, that's my second part where it's like the saga and then the 2 anthology films.
Hmm.
Mandalorian Grogu is going to be an interesting one moving forward, and Starfighter as well, because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to feel about those yet.
Right.
But definitely the ones that have the Star Wars anthology branding or a Star Wars story
Right.
branding. So stupid. So good, but they're so stupid. I would definitely go to those two afterwards. That's just my thoughts and feels on that.
So for those of us who find watching TV easier, because especially during my lunch break, I'm watching a TV show and I don't want to give up my whole night watching a movie because I actually find a movie a commitment. That's an evening. That's an afternoon there. Whereas, I mean, in our dopamine era, even though Clone Wars ends up becoming these 4-episode arcs, each 20-minute episode is up and down, up and down. I actually gonna clearly disagree, and that's fair. I get where you're coming from. I think Clone Wars needs to happen right after, either that or while you're watching the saga, or maybe not biggest the first time, but yeah, I think that is even the film, even the dinky you know early 2000s cutscene, well, I guess late 20s 2000s cutscene quality of the early seasons, it gets good halfway through season 1. Right, and that's better than Star Trek does sometimes, right?
It's true.
And
Took 3 seasons to get good for Star Trek.
unlike those other shows, unlike the live action shows, um those are again only 20-minute episodes, and they set the stage for basically everything. I think Clone Wars sets the stage for everything else.
Oh no, I would agree with you in that sense.
But yeah, I mean, especially for the live action shows, especially for something like Ahsoka, and then definitely, obviously, for the other animated shows. But even like you mentioned, Maul, you mentioned, like, we joked something about Mortis, right? Here's the thing: is Clone Wars is the last George Lucas story we got, and so it you want to tap into, I mean, and Ahsoka was the last George Lucas original main character we got, Ahsoka and Rex. So you want to tap into kind of at the roots of Star Wars and then building up from the roots. Right. I think that's the place to start. Now, here's the thing: you could watch, uh, a season of Clone Wars, or you can watch. I mean, you can binge an arc or two of Clone Wars, or just an arc, and then you can also go and watch Solo. You can go and watch Rogue One, whatever. Those two, you could do those two at the same time, and watching Clone Wars ongoing, and that might give some more context to some of the things you see. But yeah, I actually think, especially because watching Ahsoka again, well, that's a bit complicated. I think Ahsoka season 1 does a great job of helping people catch up to Clone Wars and Rebels if they haven't seen those, but really laying the foundation. So yeah, my vote is Clone Wars is the next thing.
So I would agree with. I guess it kind of depends on like your commitment and what you're committing to already. To be fair,
or if you're like me, you find watching 20 minutes of TV easier than,
and that too.
Yeah,
back when TV was actually TV. But I do agree though. I think if you are someone who's like determined to do this,
sure,
in like the most purest, I hate saying that word, but like if you're not my dad, if I'm not doing this with my dad, someone like who's ready to like take the path of the Star Wars fan. Well, actually, I'm gonna now ask a more interesting question then,
Hmm.
because I said start with the saga, but if you want to take the truest Star Wars path,
Hmm.
or I don't want to, that sounds horrible. The
Yeah.
most nerdy Star Wars path. There we go. That's a little bit more.
Mm.
Do you just watch the first 6 movies, then do you go to Clone Wars, and then do you hold off on the sequels till later? Because
Yeah.
wouldn't you want to first get the Lucas experience, obviously, with 6 films, his original 6,
Hmm.
regardless of the order. Um, although I mean I would do. I mean, I'll just put my card on the table. I would do release order just because I like seeing the evolution of the franchise from
Hmm.
this little space fantasy that no one thought of to now this big epic universe that George just keeps building and building.
Yeah.
Um, which I think is just neat. Do you start with George's original 6, then you do Clone Wars up to season 6? I actually would stop at season 6 because season 7 gets a little weirder with
Yeah.
kind of more of a tie-in to the stuff that was already happening. I mean, I feel like I'm not arguing for just watch everything in release order as it was
Yeah.
released to some extent, and maybe that's not fun.
Hmm.
But do you? Well, I'll just ask you this question. Do you start with George's 6, then you watch George's original 6
Hmm.
seasons of Clone Wars? It's always 6,
Yeah.
and then do you kind of dip your tool into quote unquote the Disney era? Ugh. Right? Well, what do you think?
Yeah.
Like if you were to like guide someone, I mean, again, depending on like what they want, of course,
Hmm.
but if you want to like truly guide them in the ways of the Star
Yeah.
Wars, this is the way. Do you just show them the first 6 and then the Clone Wars, and then we kind of expand to, I
Hmm.
guess, the sequels in the Disney era? Even though I don't like talking about it that way, because
Yeah. No, I get what you mean there.
yeah,
I think again, it's a show. It's a show that you can watch as you go, and then also watch films
but
as you
would you
go.
wait? But would you wait though?
No,
To you wouldn't wait.
I wouldn't necessarily worry about it because
Mm.
they're just they're separate enough. But I mean, I definitely would. Well, so what I would say is, yes, definitely at least the George films first, and then
Obviously.
Clone Wars.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, but then if yeah, I mean, you can the sequels and Clone Wars at the same time. Yeah, probably. I mean, that's the thing, and see what someone would see what you gravitate towards. If you
Obviously.
gravitate towards sequel era, maybe if you're good with fun animation, then just start with Resistance. After that or something.
That's
Um,
true.
why not? So that there's that bit, but yeah, it's a good question. I get what you mean. Um, yeah,
If we're doing a more controlled kind of like you watch one at a time and
yeah,
blah 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 blah, and not kind of doing a chaotic route, then maybe
hmm
I would show them just the first 6 films, then Clone Wars.
hmm
Um, at first, just to kind of get them and kind of show them all the Lucas stuff because
yeah.
um,
I can see that for sure.
you
I'm just saying
know,
it doesn't matter as much, but yeah, if you want to focus them,
yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of where I'm coming at. It's like if I
hmm
want to really focus on something, and yeah,
because then people will be like, "But why didn't anything from Clone Wars show up in the sequel trilogy?"
that's sure. That's you always you risk that for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well,
Um,
actually, that's not true. Ahsoka has a voice in Rey's thing in Rise of Skywalker, but
it's true.
yeah,
That's very true. Um, yeah. So okay. So I guess you definitely do want to do that.
yeah.
Um, well, that kind of a little bit of a spark of debate, though, of like,
hmm hmm
because I'm sure there are people who would say if you want to start an animated show, first start with Rebels as well. I can kind of see why you would
Yeah.
say that. I mean, it's definitely a very straightforward show, and obviously Rebels also
Mm,
has a lot of important stuff that's going to come to a head, and it's already coming to a head.
yeah.
For certainly in the Mandoverse. Mandoverse being almost. I mean, it's a sequel to Clone Wars stuff, but it's also very much a sequel to Rebel stuff.
Mhm.
With obviously the Rebels characters and
Well, yeah.
draw.
Ahsoka definitely.
Uh, so I could see that as well. But no, I guess in the
Yeah.
controlled environment, I definitely would show um
Hmm.
Clone Wars than um
Clone Wars
than
than Rebels.
the
No,
Rebels
I mean
first.
then you can go. I mean, Bad Batch is Rebels continued. Or sorry, Clone Wars continued, and Maul Shadow Lord. I think those are, and Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire. I think those are designed to,
Those are more. You should probably
yeah.
watch Clone Wars first before you
Oh, for
watch
sure.
any
Yeah,
of
but
those.
as in those are kind of continuing on from that. Although the
Mhm.
the Morgan part of Tales of the Empire kind of presupposes Ahsoka.
That's true. We're
At
not
least the
making
one
this
episode.
easier for anybody, are
No,
we?
no. I mean, part of it is what do you gravitate towards? When I will say, here's what interesting thought though I
Okay.
had, and I think
Okay.
maybe this is something you've brought up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What if someone starts with Rebels, like
Mhm.
before seeing anything, starts with
I.
Rebels, and
Mhm.
then goes chronological order through that? So it goes Rebels and/or Rogue One, New Hope.
I mean.
That'll be
I mean, I think.
interesting.
I think I skipped. I think I skipped. I think I was suggesting Andor, Rogue One, then New Hope. I don't think I brought up Rebels. But okay, let's say we do Rebels.
Yeah.
Um. I mean,
Mhm.
that's I don't know if you've seen the first how long ago you've seen the first season of Rebels. Um, but that first season really does stand on its own for
Yeah.
the most part. It's not until like the final 3 episodes
Hmm.
do you get Tarkin's cameo,
Right.
and then Ahsoka shows up as Fulcrum, and
Hmm.
then Vader shows up. But even in season 2, you definitely feel like you get a lot of that deeper saga information
Yeah, that's true.
from Ezra's perspective. Like
Yeah,
he's learning about it.
a lot
We're
of Force stuff.
yeah, so we're
Yeah,
learning about
that's
it
true.
with him and Kanan. And then it kind of goes away after season 2 when you get kind of refocuses back on the just
Hmm.
the rebels' plight with Thrawn showing up and
Yeah.
Lothal, and then
But then you get the world between worlds, and like, what?
I mean, yeah, but again, that's from
Yeah,
Ezra's perspective, so we're just as confused as he is.
true. Yeah, that's
And
true.
then, you kind of by the end are like, "Where's Ezra? Is
Yeah,
Ezra gonna be okay?" Then Ahsoka shows up and like, "Well, what the heck, Sabine? Ahsoka, go find him." I think
yeah,
if anything, Star Wars then becomes the hunt for Ezra. Ezra's the main character
yeah. That'd be
of Star
interesting.
Wars by that point, and
Which
like,
I think for some people, maybe.
I mean,
Yeah,
here's the thing:
I wouldn't
watch.
recommend that, but I think some people by accident like, oh, this Rebels show. It's like Star Wars, Disney Plus.
I mean, here's the weird thing:
Yeah.
if you watch Rebels,
Hmm.
forget watching A New Hope. Like if you watch Rebels, skipped
Hmm.
all the way to the Mandoverse stuff,
Yeah.
and then you kind of get to Ahsoka, that makes the thing about the Filoni
Yeah.
verse, as I call it, it's very much like this weird story within a story situation
Yeah.
where Ahsoka kind of weirdly is like she branches off from the main saga and
Hmm.
kind of has her own saga kind of running parallel to it and intersects.
Hmm.
Um, because obviously Luke shows up and stuff like that, but you know, um from an interesting perspective, the Ahsoka kind of saga is kind of its own in betweeny, not even in
Yeah.
between, but parallel storyline happening that
Hmm.
is affected, though, of course, by the main 9 movie saga, obviously, because
Yeah.
she has to deal with the rise of the Empire and then the fall of the Empire, and then we kind of see what's going on with her and effects.
Hmm.
Um, and then obviously, after the Empire's fall, we kind of see her and the Rebels characters kind of doing their own thing, but also dealing with the remnants of that with Thrawn. And Luke, Han, and Leia are kind of tangentially involved, but they're kind of in
Hmm.
the background because they're going to deal with their own thing later. So
Yeah.
it is an interesting thought experiment of just watching, if not Clone Wars first, then definitely start with Rebels and kind of see the
Yeah.
the weird Rebel saga happening
It's true.
in front of your eyes.
I think I have it. I think I've got it.
Okay.
And another thing we forgot to mention is Kenobi, where you watch that
Oh yeah,
because
definitely
I
watch
mean it's definitely Obi-Wan and the Skywalkers, but also has the Inquisitors in it. So I mean, here's another thing. Anything we do with this,
Yeah.
including if you start films first, especially if you start release order, is going to be uh, if people are patient enough to say, here's this thing that isn't explained yet. Hold on, it will be explained.
Well, also,
That's true for fiction
mhm.
generally, right? Here's what I'll say: is here's my kind of my answer for all this. This is for the casual fan. Say I want to spend 2026 getting into Star Wars. Here's my answer now. I've got it. Um, Lucasfilms, as in 1 to 6. I mean, I see release order, but I'm still chronological for that. I want to say, and then Mandoverse, or no, not Mandoverse. Sorry, Filoniverse.
Which
Then
includes Mandoverse, to be fair. I mean, Mandoverse
yes,
and Filoniverse are just the same thing. So
yes. I meant Filoniverse. So start Clone Wars. So Clone Wars, and then
Rebels.
well, Clone Wars, and you can fold in Bad Batch, and yeah, there, and then Rebels, and then yeah, and then Andor. Maybe no, maybe not.
Andor's not
No,
Filoniverse. That's its own thing.
no,
It's
yeah,
Gilroyverse.
the Gilroy. So yeah, like maybe this is the thing is because this is just the way these storytellers have built things up, right? So the way George Lucas built his thing, and the way Dave Filoni's building his thing. So the Lucasverse. Okay, now it's getting ridiculous, but that's what
I
is
mean, no,
ridiculous is watching alphabetical order. But
I
but
agree.
no, as in the labels. But yeah,
Oh.
so the George Lucas films, and uh then the Filoni. So Clone Wars, Bad Batch,
Well,
Shadow Lord, yeah, Rebels, and then the Mandoverse, and then I mean now of course parts of Mandalorian season 3 involve and Bad Batch, Mandalorian season 3 involve um stuff in the sequel trilogy, right? Project Necromancer. We hear Project Necromancer in Rogue One, so you know then go back to Andor, and then Rogue One. Um, Solo you can kind of watch wherever,
mm-hmm.
um, and then the sequels you can kind of watch whenever, and then Resistance. I think that's kind of my order there. Just and part of that is Filoni being the heir to the Lucas legacy, which we've talked about, and that's a complicated, fraught thing. And at the very end, I know you got to start with the Acolyte. No, just kidding. The Acolyte. I mean, the Acolyte could also watch after the saga films.
Yeah, I mean,
You know.
look, I think this is the weird thing
Mhm,
about the kind of the interconnectivity of all these projects.
mhm.
Is I always say some projects are not as interconnected as others.
Yeah.
I think that's just a fact. Acolyte and Kenobi, I feel like you could watch them kind of whenever.
Yeah.
Obviously, you gotta watch the 6 films before you watch Kenobi, and I would say that for the Acolyte to some extent as
Mhm.
well. Although Acolyte's just gonna make you sad because
Yeah.
it got canceled. And you can't
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
I mean you can, and whereas the Filoniverse, as we just dub it,
Mhm.
it's co-owned. It's co. You got the co-share with Clone Wars. Although that's I consider more Lucas thing. Season
Mhm.
7 is Filoniverse 100%.
Sure.
Um, I have this whole thing where I kind of see season 7 of Clone Wars as like its own entity,
Mhm.
in terms of like artistic intent because of it was made kind of after the fact. A bunch of canon stuff was already there. I don't
Yeah.
100% believe that what we got was going to be exactly what we got if George had continued because I think George had very different ideas at the time. Um,
So I mean, but then we got the general gist, right?
I mean, yeah, but I'm still not
Yeah.
convinced Ahsoka would have lived it out. I think,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that's
I definitely. I mean, definitely. So I mean, in some things like the Bad Batch we already had, um,
yeah,
like uh the thing like the Marquez sisters, we had a version of that.
who's a
Thankfully,
dude.
not Han and Lando.
Not Han Lando, not some random dude either.
Some random dude.
I mean,
Yeah.
to me, the Filoni verse starts with more with Rebels because that was him on his just going
Yeah.
solo.
For sure.
Um, but no, I do see it.
Mhm.
I think I think I would modify my answer where
Mhm.
I would just do the saga just because I think
Yeah.
it's easier, even though you'll get a
Mhm.
little bit of the you get a little bit of the non Lucas, but that's fine because
Mhm.
eventually it's gonna matter. Then I would do Clone Wars for sure,
All right.
and then I
I've
would
won you
do
over.
okay, and then probably and then if we're doing like if someone's committed to the bit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then yeah, I think you probably should do the quote unquote the Filoni verse of I don't know. See, here's the thing.
Mhm.
I actually would do Rebels first before I would do Rebels first.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like Resistance. Maybe you probably should do Resistance because that's just easy to do. Then I'd go
Yeah.
back and then I'd watch season 7 of Clone Wars because then I feel like things build
Mhm.
up from that because that's where Bad Batch gets introduced and whatnot. That's where Siege of
Yeah.
Mandalore gets introduced. So I would go back and then I would do season 7. And also because, maybe you would want to know what happened to Bo-Katan before you start the Mandoverse. Um, and also because that
Yeah.
Mandalorian came did Mandalorian no, Mandalorian Cat came out after before season 7. But
Yeah.
mhm, mm,
Yeah. I mean, well, while you take a drink, I think you watch Clone Wars season 7 before you watch The Mandalorian.
yeah, I probably would do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know where to necessarily watch Bad Batch
Mhm.
and Maul Shadow Lord. I mean, we haven't seen Maul Shadow Lord, so I don't know how we're gonna feel about that.
Yeah.
But I definitely well, here's the thing. I
Mhm.
think I feel like things like Maul Shadow Lord and the Tales of series,
Mhm.
Tales of series a little less so, but are kind of more supplemental to the Mandoverse because, like,
Mhm.
if you
Yeah.
watch the Morgan episodes, if you watch Ahsoka and you're kind of like, oh, I wish I knew more about the Morgan Elspeth. Too bad she's dead. Then I'd be like, well, you got this cool little shorts of Tales
Yeah.
of where you can kind of learn more about her.
Mhm.
Um, so then uh, so I feel like
Mhm.
maybe because I definitely feel like Rebels and Mandoverse are kind of more on par with each other. And I'm not saying Bad Batch and Marshall are going to be necessarily less or anything like that, but I do feel like
Mhm.
they add some context, but I don't know how much right now they are going to factor. I mean, I guess we got Project Necromancer, but I have no idea what
Yeah.
that's about, and so I kind of have to wait and see on that front.
Mhm.
Um, but I
I
definitely
mean,
for
we know what Project Necromancer is about.
right,
Right.
right.
Well, we
I
know, but I guess people who haven't watched Rise of Skywalker don't know.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I'm curious what Hux thinks Project Necromancer is. 'Cause I
Yeah.
kind of have a whole other. I heard actually a somewhat good canon video kind of explaining that and kind
Mhm.
of how all these Imperial projects are happening. It's very a little kind of all over the place. But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely feel like yeah, you watch Clone Wars and you watch Rebels. Go back and watch season 7 of Clone Wars,
Mhm.
and then watch Mandoverse. Even Skeleton Crew, because Skeleton Crew is still part of the Mandoverse. Even if it's like the most detached part, it's
Yeah.
still part of the Mandoverse.
Mhm.
Who knows how we'll be talking about this when the Mandoverse is more or less over.
Yeah.
Um, and then kind of after that, then I think you're kind of in a free for all to watch the anthology films and
Mhm.
Andor and the Acolyte and Kenobi. You can watch Andor before Rogue One. You can watch it after. I kind of have no preference. I think it's
Mhm.
fun to watch Andor than Rogue One.
Yeah.
Um, but I think either way is fine. And
Mhm.
then Acolyte and Kenobi kind of watch at your own time. Uh,
See, I think Kenobi. See, the reason I put Kenobi right after the George Lucas films is because it really is directly reflecting on them, on all six.
oh,
Right. It's not
definitely. I would deny that.
so. It'd be nice to have it immediately after to see. Okay, this is the hinge. I mean, that's also if you're watching chronologically. Watch those.
Which,
Put that in the chronological order because
I
it's
mean,
the hinge from Anakin to Luke. Like Obi-Wan is this hinge. So,
that's true as well.
but it depends on how people want to follow story and if they like that kind of commentary or if they want to just know what happens next. Maybe it's part of the question, right?
right. I mean, it's interesting the way we've talked about this. I feel like we're kind of all over the place in my notes. I'm so sorry.
That's right. No,
Um,
we're kind of figuring out like in terms of screen content, what's the best?
Right.
What's the best way for a casual fan to start
Right. I mean,
wrapping up?
again, I think we're kind of both in agreement. The saga probably still is
Yeah.
the easiest if you're doing a little more of a controlled environment,
Hmm.
because again, it's the simplest one. It's
Hmm.
kind of the most. It's the Star Wars at the most broadest level,
Hmm.
because everything else I feel like kind of gets deeper and deeper into the weeds of like
Yeah,
you
that's
know
true
the
too.
the kind of the the mechanics of the galaxy and how it all works.
Hmm.
Um, but where the saga is kind of like the broad strokes of history.
Yeah.
Um, it's gonna be interesting. I know this is gonna kind of skip ahead to when we get
Hmm.
this 2027 when Starfighter, because then I feel
Yeah.
like okay, we have
Hmm.
the Lucas saga. We have, for kind of a lack of a better term, the Filoni verse.
Hmm.
But from I still think Rebels to Mandoverse to Heir of the Empire.
Yeah.
Not like I mean, I'm sure he's going to be involved in things moving forward with his position, of course. But I still think
Hmm.
that's still its own storyline to some
Hmm.
extent. Kind of like High Republic, like where it's like, yeah, that's a storyline. This is a
Hmm.
singular storyline. The next kind of story, and I think my gut tells me that no matter regardless of how much they're saying this is a standalone movie, I still think Starfighter is kind of the start of the next story arc,
Yeah.
whatever that might be. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
uh, and maybe there'll be some hints moving forward, of course, of like what that might be in Ahsoka season 2 if Filoni wants to start setting things up for post
Hmm.
Exegol. But I do think, but it does seem like in terms of like meta narratives, which I
Yeah.
like using that terms. You got
That's a good term.
Lucas's saga, which I guess you can conclude once 7 through 9 because I think it wants to be part of it. We can talk about that some other time.
Hmm.
But definitely that, and then Clone Wars, which is
Yeah.
definitely Lucas's universe, and then Rebels to Heir the Empire as another meta narrative,
Hmm.
and then Starfighter to I don't know Kinberg's trilogy maybe
Yeah.
the third meta narrative with things like Andor, Acolyte, kind of Rogue One, Solo, kind of their own little things.
Yeah.
And then Kenobi is an interesting one of like, it's good reflection if you like want a reflection movie, kind of like something to just
Hmm.
look back at all 6 films.
Yeah. I like Star Wars commenting on Star Wars.
Yeah.
Is kind of what we're getting at there. So.
So yeah, I think we've exhausted screen. I feel like we failed
Hmm.
in our mission to make this simple.
No,
Gosh,
well, it wasn't going to be simple, but.
but of course,
Hmm.
if you've committed to screen and you want something a little different, Star Wars thankfully has you covered. Because not only is Star Wars a bunch of movies and streaming shows and animated shows, it's also a whole heck of a lot of books and comics.
What?
I know, right? It could fill a library. It's been that way since the 90s, and they're all canon, except for the ones that aren't. Um,
Real pirate.
so I know. Um,
Yeah.
this one, I definitely think that
Yeah.
much like what you said with streaming, I
Hmm.
think this is very not with streaming, just with on-screen stuff.
Yeah.
I think you can very much apply what you gravitate towards more or less with books and comics. So I think
Hmm.
overall the books and comics do a pretty decent job of being just standalone enough
Hmm.
to like you can pick up more or less anything
Yeah.
within reason and read it, especially the books. I think there are a
Yeah.
lot, obviously High Republic's its own beast, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the point. But anything outside of High Republic, of course, most of the books and comics you can, or probably trilogy, of course. You can pick up
Hmm.
if you kind of gravitate towards something
Yeah.
and you
That's it.
want
Yeah.
to just read something kind of akin to that. So, like, let's say you love Andor and you want something akin to that. You
Yeah.
got Mask of Fear. You got the Catalyst. You got, I mean, anything written by James Luceno, really.
Yeah.
Or Alexander Freed. You got those books. You got
Hmm.
Battlefield Twilight Company.
Hmm.
You like
Battlefront. Yeah.
Battlefront Twilight Company. You like Darth Vader? Oh boy, you got a whole lot of Vader to pick from,
Yeah.
my friend. You got Vader up the wazoo. Um,
Hmm.
you know, right now, thankfully, seems like we'll finally get us sequel trilogy fans will finally have something to eat
Hmm.
next year, and we're getting a little bit this year with Finn book and
Yep.
Legacy Vader. Um, and then of
The
course,
Last Order, which is good.
in
Yep.
Last Order, yeah, I mean, I said the Finn book.
Yep.
Last Order. You
Hmm.
know, got OT, lots of OT. You
Hmm.
got OT up the wazoo with the comic world. You got whole runs that lasted for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, and then if you want maybe original characters, well, congrats, you got the whole High Republic if you want to commit. Light to trial. Good
Yeah.
luck.
Like
Pat
the
on the
trial.
back. Good luck,
Yes.
brother or sister or non-binary mister.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there you go. So I definitely think with books and
Hmm.
comics, it's very much a what do you gravitate towards
Yeah.
kind of a situation the most. I could definitely think of like certain books like maybe are good starters,
Yeah.
but I think at the end of the day, it's very much a what do you gravitate towards, and then read that.
Yeah. I mean, it's also kind of questions you have because I mean, I think a lot of Legends was marketed this way. A good chunk of Ken, especially the Aftermath trilogy, was marketed of what happens next. What
Mm,
happens next, right? Um, True Superkura. I
broad
read True
trilogy.
Superkura in high school because like what happens next? What happens next? I don't quite remember what happens next, but uh,
Dinosaurs attack the Empire, and the rebels have to team up to fight them.
something like that. And then yeah, but yeah. So the Aftermath trilogy, and also Princess and the Scoundrel, which is of course written much later, and a third of it is an ad for a defunct hotel, but uh like getting into that year. I mean, that's another thing. Like we mentioned this before, is they have like that's the probably the best coordinated chunk of time between in all the paper canon is that year from Endor to Jakku, partly to fill out this planet that we see in Force Awakens and all that, but also just to say, yeah, answer this question: what happens next? And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I think the first places I go, I think we've talked about this before, but if anyone who wants to, if you're kind of like all of Star Wars, if you're not necessarily a prequelist, if you like the original trilogy best, for example, um, the first place to go would be the Aftermath trilogy, and also the Jason Aaron Star Wars ongoing, right? Because
Hmm.
that's also
Or
marketed
Gillen's
as
Vader and Gillen's Vader.
and Gillen's like Jason Aaron's um ongoing and Gillen's Vader, because those two were definitely marketed as okay, A New Hope. What happens next, at least in the new canon, right?
Right.
We just a few years before we actually had there was another uh ongoing that was just doing that, and oddly enough, it got canceled because of the Disney changeover. But it was Dark Horse, and one of the first single issue comics I remember reading was this was Star Wars 2013. So that's always a thing on people's minds, and so yeah, I'd start there. Um, again, this is that big question. You know, I think what, like you said, if you gravitate towards a character, that's the thing, and that's another thing that these books are so great for is doing the character study and saying, okay, if you loved Qui-Gon, Master and Apprentice continues to be my favorite Star Wars novel of all time, and it is perfect.
You
If you
want to
love the
know about
prequels,
those Jedi Council people and what they're all
yeah,
about? We got a whole book for that,
yeah.
and a
So
comic.
and that's what's nice is yeah, these are all these standalone novels are all nice on ramps. Don't necessarily. I mean, that's the thing I got convoluted with Legends, for example. And it was neat. It was really cool the way that they would weave everything in and culminating in Matthew Stover's Revenge of the Sith novelization. But yeah, like living force and Master and Apprentice basically only require you to have read the Phantom Menace, like
More or less,
effectively.
or
I
watch the.
mean, or watch the Phantom Menace. Sorry,
No, read Terry Stover's Phantom Menace. No,
Terry
forget
Brooks.
the movie.
Yeah, Terry Brooks, which is also
Terry
great.
Brooks. They're,
Yeah, but
I'm mixing authors now. Dang it.
yeah. Or I mean, the end of Living Force involves a bit of Palpatine there too. So there's that. I mean, if you like Ahsoka,
Hmm.
read E.K. Johnson's Ahsoka novel. Uh, you know, she's kind of she's they're good, and her Padme novels are good. I think Queen's Hope is great.
Yeah.
Um,
Here's a
yeah,
question. Here's a question for you,
yeah,
because 'cause I do think there are certain parts, especially in the comics, that have sort of.
mhm,
I don't think comics have gotten impenetrable. Far from it, but
yeah.
part of me would not want to read Battle of Jakku first
No,
because I feel like, well, I would read Aftermath just in general because
yeah.
that's where the actual story comes from. But I feel like, but you
Well,
want to look at Luke Han and Leia, you're probably gonna be like, who's this Afra character? Right? Where who's already had
yeah.
three entire, and who's this Vance? Who's this Valance character?
Mhm,
Where
yeah,
they're very much written as the we everyone knows who we are. I'm Afra. I'm the popular comic book character ever created.
yeah.
I got three whole runs in a mini.
Mhm,
So it's like I feel like a newbie be like, who's this and why is she important?
yeah.
Where it's like I probably would read Vader first and then get her introduction and then start reading her comics.
I mean, if you love Afra, just read all the way through up to Alyssa Wong. Even the Cherish Chen one that was cut short. That one which is okay and didn't have the best concept, but um, or if you want the the queer love story, then just read Alyssa Wong's Afra. You won't have much context, but you know,
Well, that's
um,
that's the thing I always think about as well. Is like
yeah,
I always work. I mean, that's another reason why
representation.
I. No, no, no. I'm not about the
Okay, fair.
representation. I'm talking about context. 'Cause I feel
Yeah.
like that's another thing I always think about when introducing things. It's like,
Hmm.
well, if we do this first, do you have the context? Do you have enough context for
Sure.
X, Y, and Z? You
Yeah.
would have zero context for Afro if you read Ballad to Coup first. Whereas,
Yeah.
you probably should just go back then and it's like, well, here's Gillen's Vader. She appears there first as the kind of evil
Issue number
the
3.
dark
The
Indiana Jones, and then she lives and gets a spin-off.
mhm. Issue number 3, probably the most expensive single issue, and mine's right there, locked
Yep.
away. That being said, her cameo in Battle of Jakku, while we're in the weeds now, her cameo in Battle of Jakku isn't really enough to matter as much. Like, really, you need to really know who she is. It's really cool. Like, I mean, that's the thing about Canon, right? It's really great to see her helping Luke out there,
Hmm.
but and it's great because you know why, right? You've seen her evolution
Right.
from someone who, you know, when you first meet her, she would have just taken that compass or whatever it is and sold it,
Hmm.
and now she's like, "Here you go." You drop this literally. That's what happens, right? I do think Battle of Jakku can be an on ramp. It is only 12 issues, and the story goes by pretty quickly. Not necessarily for a casual fan, but if someone I think wants to similar question wants to pick up um a Star Wars comic because watch the films wants to pick up a Star Wars comic, the it can be an on ramp. It just then you'll have to read the Aftermath trilogy after that to get the fuller story. Um, but yeah, I mean, and then there's the the hit at the end that leads into the Alex Segura Star Wars comic, which is going to be ending at 10 issues as well. But
It's actually I was
yeah,
just thinking about this the other day. Funny enough,
yeah,
if you consider Battle of Jakku to just be the substitute for the ongoing, which in
yeah,
some ways it kind of was,
yeah.
right? You
It
know,
was a continuation of the Charles Soule ongoing in a lot of
right.
ways.
Like they
At
said,
least the
written by Alex Segura.
yeah, and it was
Um,
meant to be. Well, here's the thing. I also think Alex Segura's ongoing was meant to be an ongoing, right? That's why you call it Star Wars.
that's true. But
But
I was just thinking like if I kind of combine those two his story arcs, then
mhm,
that's kind of that he got 22 ish. No, let's see, 12
yeah,
plus 10, 22 issues.
yes,
Um,
math.
math.
Mhm,
Except one just was released shorter than the other.
yeah,
Um, Imagine if Battlefield 2 had been released the whole year. I don't know if that would make it worse or better. Um, who
Yeah,
knows?
if it'd be monthly. That's right. It was also released like the most compressed release schedule I've ever seen of a comic book.
I know I got
Yeah,
they want to get through that fast.
that was episodic. Yeah.
I know, right? But
Mhm,
the whole other story. Yeah,
mhm,
but again, here's back to kind of
mhm.
the gravitate thing. If you were ever disappointed about like, hey,
Yeah.
whatever happened to that
Mhm.
Kira, she was cool.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Charles Soule got you covered. Um,
Mhm.
with an entire 2020 run and a whole big
Yeah.
freaking event of
Mhm.
Kira, if you like that. And a video game with Outlaws because
Yeah.
she appears in that.
Yes.
Uh,
I'm assuming Emilia Clarke doesn't voice her in Outlaws.
no,
No.
it's good
Yeah.
sounded like though.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I think. Yeah, and here's the thing. I think like that Crimson Saga, even like the flagship issues, the flagship runs. I think you could read those. They're a bit anthology, especially I think Hidden Empire is like a different character. I
mhm,
mean, that's how kind of how Marvel does it. Is like you could read them standalone, and then they're meant to be bridges off into other books, right? Like, um,
mhm,
I mean, there's a bit of a crossover with Afra, a bit of crossover with Bounty Hunters,
mhm.
you know. But I mean, there's another thing, Bounty Hunters. That went good chunk. Ethan Sachs. If you like the Underworld stuff, I mean, that's original characters and some a certain returning character by the name of Boba Fett. But I mean, he's also in that's War of the Bounty Hunters, right, right there. So which is the first of the crossovers. So yeah, I mean, there are options. There are options. I think here's the thing: if someone came to me and just like I don't care, I mean, this is maybe the way of setting up this conversation, right?
Mhm.
Maybe Joel, he'll ask you this question. Someone came to you and said, um, "Yeah, I've just seen all the films, or I've just seen all the films, all 9, all 12, whatever." Um,
Not if you sell the saga. 12, if you include the anthology movies.
yeah, or whatever, and maybe a bit of the shows. This doesn't matter. What is the first paper thing I should read,
Well, I mean,
regardless of what I gravitate towards? Just say I love it all. Say I like it all. I want to just know what to do next.
honestly,
Yeah,
I would give him Live the Jedi. Just like, here you go. Here's High Republic.
really.
Enjoy.
Just launch them all on a whole other thing. So, okay, so that they want to continue on with the saga era.
Okay. Okay. If you want to continue on with the saga era,
Hmm.
see, this is the problem because it's like I would try to narrow it down. Like, what do you like? Who's your favorite character? What do you?
Yeah,
Okay. I guess if I were to say here's the saga era, I would just I'd give him Jason Aaron's 2020,
2015.
2015, and
Yeah,
really it was 2015. I thought it was earlier.
no,
Okay.
2015.
Okay, 2015, and I'd give him Gillen's
Yeah.
Vader. I think you should read those two back to back.
Hmm.
And like, here you go nuts. And
Yeah.
here's Aftermath. There you go. That's what I would do.
Yeah, and I think we're agreed on that, which is good. There we go. So, yeah, that makes sense. And then if you're a prequelist, I mean, there's a pretty obvious answer there. It's I'd say Vader's 2017 and Master and Apprentice.
What about Brotherhood? Brotherhood's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Brotherhood. Yeah. I mean, I think Master and Apprentice gets at kind of the Force mythos stuff. And kind of Qui-Gon's whole shtick. And of course, Obi-Wan, yeah, YA novel aspect to it. Yeah, Brotherhood. I mean, Anakin Obi-Wan, that character dynamic too. Yeah, one of those two. Yeah, there you go. And that gets to the question then: if a sequel fan, I mean, we haven't gotten as much, but we've gotten some things, I guess, like
Um,
Bloodline. I mean,
I
shoot, forgetting
definitely give
Lost Stars.
I definitely give it Bloodline. I
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. Maybe that would be the book I'd give him over Aftermath first. I would probably
yeah.
like. Here, read
especially if they're
Lost Stars.
younger.
Right. Probably
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, maybe I
Yeah.
would give him Lost Stars first. Here,
Hmm.
read Lost Stars. It takes place through the whole 6 movies, and
Hmm.
it's a love story.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Hmm.
Um, I mean I mean the Star Wars nerd problem of like they say I like Star Wars. What should I read?
Hmm.
If
Yeah.
here's my question, Matthew. If I said I watched the movies, I like Star Wars. What should I read?
Yeah.
What would you recommend? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
would you want me to narrow that down for you beyond? I like Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know why I
Um.
sound that way. I'm sorry. I
Mhm.
like Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah. But I agree. I think it would be the. I mean, this is a very almost originalist type of thing, oddly enough. But yeah, I'd say. I mean, I'd hope they'd say, "Oh man, I love the prequels. I really was gripped by this Anakin character and the tragedy of Darth Vader."
Well, what if they're just someone who just like I like Star Wars? Like they don't they're not a specific person.
I mean, I'd almost want to hand them this Vader comic 2017 and see what happens. But
Well, I mean, if they like all Star Wars, then they should be easy to please, right?
yeah,
To some
so
extent.
you never know.
Yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, I mean, you can start there. I don't think
Hmm.
it's that hard.
Yeah.
Maybe you wouldn't know anything about the Inquisitors, but I mean that
Hmm.
you're getting introduction to them. So
Hmm.
there you go. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think you could start with Vader 2017 as well. It's not a
True.
hard. It's not a hard one to read. At least I don't think so.
We should start with Hyperspace Stories Grievous that comes out in March. No, I'm just kidding. 'Cause I'm kind
Uh,
of looking at this next question that maybe, I mean, you can spend the next half an hour, but also maybe a whole other episode, whole other podcast on this
yeah.
of like are there uh are there on ramps in 2026?
Well, I mean, that's gonna be the weird thing with
Yeah.
Mandalorian and Grogu because I don't know. I
Hmm.
feel like they want to aim it that way, and maybe it will be to some extent.
Yeah.
I
Like
feel like
Scream. Yeah.
it will be to some extent.
Hmm.
2017, I think Starfighter is very much going to be an on ramp.
2027. Yeah.
Even if Ray shows up at like the very end, Luke Skywalker style, I feel
Hmm.
like that's being set up as such an on ramp movie
Yeah.
because it just has nothing. Because they keep saying it, it's a standalone, it's got nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Um, so
Hmm.
I definitely think that's an on
Hmm.
ramp movie for sure in terms of like the intent behind it. And I think this is something I just want to kind of clarify about
Hmm.
on ramps.
Yeah.
I I think there are intentional on ramps, and there are
Hmm.
just things that you get into regardless. Like I got into Star Wars
Yeah.
because I watched Return of the Jedi first.
Yeah.
That's not an on ramp. I just got
Hmm.
into it, but that's
Yeah.
not an intentional on ramp.
Hmm.
Mandalorian season 1 was.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
True.
I think it's possible Mandalorian Grogu's an on ramp, just by
Yeah.
kind of what I've heard
Or
about it
funnel.
and
Sorry.
kind of
Yeah.
the nature of it and
Hmm.
what I feel like it's gonna aim for.
Hmm.
Even if there are ties for like the hardcore fans to be following, I think it is gonna be more of an on ramp kind of situation.
Kind of like season one.
Kind
Yeah.
of like
Yeah.
season 1. Like I mean, all you need is a crawl. You need a
Hmm.
dang crawl. Just
That's true.
say, yeah, there was this guy named Din Djarin. He met this baby called Grogu. They
Hmm.
became father and son. Now they
Yeah.
roam around the galaxy hunting bad guys together.
That
There
might
you go.
actually be the crawl.
Here you
That might
go.
be it.
You're caught there. You're caught up. This is
Yeah.
their story, and then you
Yeah.
just see the opening. And it's them two just having an
Hmm.
adventure, and it's like, okay, you get the dynamic. You're off to the races, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, Ahsoka season 2 probably not, but I
No.
think at that point it's
So
season 2. So,
here's the thing. So as in, say folks who have seen the films
mhm,
but haven't seen Clone Wars and Rebels,
mhm,
I point back to moments like Hoyang and Jason, was Orno O'Hara and Jason saying, how it's like when you guys fought the bad guys and the Purgle took them away at the end there,
mhm,
or when Hoyang is explaining who Jason's father was to Carson, those kinds of moments. Or
Hmm.
Thrawn's like Ahsoka, who was his master, Anakin Skywalker, and then we see him.
The
So I think
expression of
there's
"oh shoot." Oh,
yeah, and so I think there's those moments that allow people to catch up
mm-hmm.
that help them get into it better. Like I think your
Sorry.
dad's experience was that.
Mm-hmm.
And then into season 2, it'll be interesting to see what they do with these guys. Wore the shirt on purpose because are they gonna kind of like is Ahsoka gonna maybe have a moment of dialogue of exposition saying, "I've met you before," you know,
Right.
why do you sound like Sam Witwer? Why do you sound like Maul? That's weird. So I think it's possible, and that's these are always, except for maybe the acolyte, these are always done with those fans in mind. We've talked about this quite a bit. We used to, at least, is what is the casual fans' experience of this? I think, Ahsoka. Yeah, that's the thing, is because so much of it is building up on Clone Wars and Rebels that uh, we maybe have trouble imagining what that experience will be like to watch it without those things, because we just gravitate so much towards them, and that's not wrong. That's what Filoni's going for us. But uh, yeah, for other folks, I think. I mean, I think it probably did pretty well. And there's the way to. I mean, you got season 2, unlike some other stories, unlike some
Yeah,
other Lucasfilm properties. So yeah, that
it eked out a season 2, so that's amazing.
yeah,
No, I
yeah,
mean, I think the thing is, and I think this is kind of an interesting dichotomy where I think
yeah,
Filoni kind of is the exception to a lot of the rules. Is,
hmm
you know, to kind of say a little bluntly, he took his toys from the animation toy box and is now going into the live action toy
yeah,
box screen, and the live
hmm
action toy box just by nature, fairly or wrong, just has a gets a wider net.
yeah,
Favreau, because he teamed up with Filoni, is in
hmm
this weird kind of paradox where it's like, you know,
yeah,
he's kind of starting from his own thing, but he is built, but and
yeah,
then kind of that animation stuff kind of gets sprinkled in.
hmm
But Dave is the one who literally took his toys
hmm
and now is going to the live action sandbox instead of
yeah,
the animation sandbox, where everyone else is kind of in the sandbox, kind of creating their own toys from scratch, with some
hmm
exceptions. I mean, Saw's different, I think, because he's just in Rogue One, because he's just sort of there, and it's like you don't really need to know who he was. Maul's a little bit weirder. Maul and
hmm
Solo was definitely that weird
yeah,
one for me. I'm happy it happened, but at the same time, it's definitely like, oh
yeah.
wow, okay. Um,
I want to see more of that story, like
I
Kira
mean,
and Maul. I want to know what happened there.
but it is interesting. But yeah, you're right. Ahsoka is the one that's building off of these animated shows and kind of treating it like
Yeah,
just one big thing. Where the
yeah,
other projects are
yeah,
very kind of doing their own thing. They're not
hmm
that interconnected with everything else, and that's
yeah,
fine. I
yeah,
That doesn't make them worse. Andor was fine. I mean, Andor had Saw in it too. To be fair,
yeah,
but I almost you almost sometimes have to consider and/or Rogue One saw and Clone Wars Rebels saw kind of somewhat separate characters to some extent. Definitely,
a
they're
little bit. I
different.
mean, I think that the guy, the
I mean, sport.
about to make the guy who was about to make genocide with one blaster bolt
That's true.
on Geonosis. I mean,
That's true. That's
yeah,
definitely true. But
yeah,
but they're definitely not as super interspersed for
no,
sure.
that's true.
And they're kind of their own separate entities. And I think again
Yeah.
that just the
Oh, sorry.
creators just naturally build up on themselves. I mean, look, we see that in the comic book. I mean, you see it in book paper canon all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
Look how Charles Soule just keeps building up on himself with the
Oh
Knights
yeah,
of Ren and
Moment
Momin
keep popping up.
and all
Mhm.
and High Republic stuff kind of comes
The
back into
castle.
play. We have the
Yeah, these.
castle.
Yeah. So.
Uh, so
Mhm.
it's just I just think it's just one of those things. But I do think that the live action stuff is aware of, like, it's not just for the
Yeah.
faint of heart. It's definitely got a wider net, and
Yeah.
people. debate whether or not Dave has done a good job of it. I mean, I think he did a fine job of it. I mean,
Yeah,
my dad liked it, so I consider him the
of course.
casual audience. So,
Yeah.
no one he wasn't
Mhm.
confused, and so whether or
Mission
not
accomplished there, right?
mission accomplished exactly.
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
definitely agree with you, and whether or not we can debate whether the exposition was clunky or not in terms of
Mhm.
like this is like Mortis. I was there in episode something of season 3. I was a cartoon back then. Um,
No,
you know,
that's the oh my gosh, the uh Strange New Worlds Lower Decks crossover. Or at the end, I don't know if you've seen this. So the animated Lower Decks show, characters jump into Strange New Worlds live action. At the end, there's a hit at the end where all the live action Strange New Worlds cast, they're
mhm.
all animated.
That's nice.
It's funny.
I mean, that is the interesting thing, and we
Yeah.
can kind of wrap it up here.
Yeah.
Of Star Wars is this various medias all tied in together because it's in the same setting.
Yeah.
Some things are more tied in together than others things.
Hmm.
We talked about the Filoni verse, and then Rogue
Hmm.
One and Gilroy stuff is kind of its own thing, and Solo was going to be its own thing. Like that didn't go anywhere, and
Yeah.
Starfighter is going to start a new thing. Maybe, hopefully, please.
Yeah.
Um, then of course you got things that are truly their own things, like Visions and the Lego specials,
Hmm.
which are very much their own thing.
Hmm.
Although it's funny how the Lego specials kind of build up on one another.
Hmm.
Well, the holiday ones did, and then
Yeah.
kind of the Rebuild the Galaxy its own thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it's kind of the question like how do you make track of all that, and
Yeah.
maybe I'm gonna this is kind of the copyist of cop out answers. Maybe you just shouldn't. Maybe you
Yeah.
should just enjoy yourself, and if you wanna, that's
What?
fun. I think the
It's fiction.
honestly,
No, I got to take this so seriously. I can't enjoy myself watching Star Wars or liking Star Wars.
I
Yeah.
know. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel like the people who try the hardest are the ones who aren't having as much fun,
Yeah.
because I think they just they're trying to interconnect way too seriously, and it's just hurting their heads.
Hmm.
Um, and this
Hmm.
is where my ultimate answer to how to get into Star Wars is, which I
Hmm.
said I was going to reveal at the end. My answer: just have it playing on TV and see if somebody watches it with you, and that's it.
Interesting.
Uh,
Yeah.
Just play it in the background
Huh.
and just see if somebody walks in, whether it be like, I mean, you don't need to do this with
That's
your
an
niece,
interesting idea.
but
Yeah.
like if your niece is on, have it in the background. If she's attracted to any of
Yeah.
it, be it whatever movie or show you have on at the time,
Yeah.
she just wants to start watching it, just let her. She'll figure it out
Yeah.
herself. It's kind of how
Yeah.
I got into most things. Just like it was on
Yeah.
TV, and just like
Hmm.
I just had it on the background, and then I got into it. Like, ooh, what's
Yeah.
this? And that's it.
Yeah. 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 It's kind of how I did the Lego special. Some things. I mean, that's another thing with age is different sensitivities towards violence and action, different things. But
I mean, obviously, if you don't want your niece watching it with like someone getting impaled or burning to
yeah,
a crisp, and like no.
my
But
brother would be
like,
upset with me if that happened. But
when
yeah,
she's older or older-ish, and if I don't know,
yeah,
Empire Strikes Back is on, and she's like, ooh, what are them walker thingies?
yes,
She just starts watching it. Then just let her watch it, and she'll figure it
yeah.
out.
I mean, that's the interesting thing. Like kids that age, they know immediately what a Star Wars thing is. Like even Percy, they knew that Percy was a Star Wars thing.
Hmm.
Like it has the star. Our friend Din would be very clear. Very clear Star Wars aesthetic, right? They know who Captain Rex is. You know, without having seen a second of Clone Wars. So
I heard a
yeah,
funny anecdote on another podcast I was listening to,
yeah,
where the guy was seeing his son watch Star Wars, and he was
hmm,
like, "Oh, look, there's Baby Yoda," and his son turns to him and goes like, "Dad, that's Grogu." And like, "Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay." So,
hmm,
that
yeah,
that's happening. So there's antidote for you,
yeah. There we are. Yeah, an antidote or an anecdote.
anecdote for you.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it just sometimes just have it on TV or have it
hmm,
on your screen and see if
yeah,
kids pick up on it, or if the
yeah,
adults too. What if maybe the adult will be like,
yeah.
"Hey, what you watching?" And they just sits down and watches it with you. It's
I
like,
mean, that's how I've gotten into Taskmaster, which I'm gonna out Dom right now. He's in. I don't know if you can hear me. Uh, he likes more than Star Wars. It's Taskmaster.
What's Taskmaster?
It's this British slash New Zealand slash Australian game show where these comedians come on, have to do these ridiculous tasks, and they pre-record it and everything. It's on YouTube. It's hilarious.
Ooh, I gotta tell our friend Daisy about that because she's on
She
Turo.
probably knows about it.
It probably.
One thing I'll say: 2 things coming out in 2026. I guess there's not enough to do a whole preview episode necessarily, but I want to note 2 possible on ramps here. If you've seen the films and you like YA romance, this is explicitly
What's the paper
designed.
Cannon thing?
This is the pardon?
This is for Paper Cannon, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Explicitly designed for this. Eyes Like Stars comes out on July 21st.
Yeah.
It's a Star Wars romance novel, and it's designed. Is this the sci-fi section or the romance section? I don't know. And
it's at the romance novel, so it's probably in the romance section.
But it's Star Wars, so there. It's explicitly designed for that. And then here's this classic Star Wars thing. If you want to know more about Leia training Rey, Legacy by Madeline Rue comes out July 28th. So, and that's an adult novel. But that year between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So, and that's another thing we mentioned too. It's the sequel stories are back.
Yeah.
And so like both of those stories are sequel era stories. So
good point. Yeah, those would be pretty good on ramps. Especially Eyes Like Stars, because it has nothing to do with anything.
Well, it's explicitly an on ramp. That is here you go.
And part of apparently some sort of new initiative of genre storytelling. I don't quite get it, but it sounds interesting.
Well, they're on ramps. Again, they're on ramps. It's like, so here's this funny thing. Growing up in the 90s, there was this whole campaign, like in Christian music. They're like, if you like this secular band, if you like this band, then you might like this other Christian band. Like, oh, don't pollute your ears with all that heathen nonsense. This is musically just as good. And it probably wasn't just as good, or maybe not, but similar kind of thing here specifically. I mean, I'm not knocking it, like this whole initiative, right? I think it's smart. I think it makes sense. And
anything to start getting books and comics with new original characters.
Yeah, and I think and also like potential for creativity. I mean, that's the thing. Like a lot of these books are genre in some ways. I mean, Mask of Fear. I mean, 2 Alexander Freed books. Mask of Fear is a political thriller, and Battlefront Twilight Company is a military, right? So
and Alphabet Squadron. Oh, definitely read. Alphabet Squadron's a really good on.
That's a major gap in my reading. I need to fix that in 2026.
You good? It's. So
I need to. Yeah. So, yeah. So those are things coming out 2026, and what kind of good time to to turn a new leaf. I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, Joel, I don't know what are some gaps in your Star Wars content and that you're going to fill it. Have you finished? You finished phase 2 of High Republic, right?
Yeah, I finished phase 2 more or less. I think.
Yeah,
really gotta go back and reread phase 1 a little bit more.
Yeah,
I kind of missed a lot of that. I got actually no, especially the comics. I really skipped down a lot of the comics because I did not want to. I mean, I can afford that.
Yeah, I mean, now that they're all done, like you just read them together, and it'll be. That's another thing with comics now. Like a lot of people struggle. I mean, I think when I had Brandon on talking on Tractor Beam, one of the reasons why the industry is moving towards graphic novels collected editions is because reading them month to month is a challenge for a lot of folks. It's probably why I said Battle of Jakku was an on-ramp when it was coming out, because it was week to week effectively, except with some gaps.
I
that
mean, I
yeah, but now that
I
they're all out, now they're all done,
mhm.
like pick up. I mean, I think the omnibuses are coming out too of Hyrule. Pick up
Very nice.
the omnibus, sit down, read 6 issues in one sitting. It's a thing.
I mean, this is a whole other topic, but I
Yeah,
definitely, and I probably will bring this up on track to be one day. It's like
yeah,
legit. I just wish Star Wars comics were
mhm.
just graphic novels, emphasis on the novel, but with
Yeah,
pictures. Um,
yeah,
just a full story, beginning, middle, and end, and
yeah,
you can write it all, and then you can paint it all or draw it all, whatever,
yeah.
and it's just the full story. There you go. And I feel like, and then the author knows what they're doing. The
Mhm.
writer will know the artist will know what they're doing. It's just a book, but with pictures.
I think I wonder if that. I'm thinking that about that. I wonder if that's also part of Marvel's approach right now. Is to say we still have to release them month by month, but because they're only 10 issues, let's just write a whole story and block it off. Because that's the thing. I mean, like Alex Segura or whatever you think of that of the Star Wars ongoing comic. I mean, he's plotted at least to the end of issue 10. Charles Soule, we know for sure. I was in the room in San Diego when he's dead. Oh yeah, issues at the end of uh the end of this comic. It could be Luke. We know he's plotted to issue 12. So yeah, I mean that might be part of it. We're just not used to that kind of. I'm just getting this now. We're not used to that kind of thing where we want comics to do this larger, more expansive story. It takes someone like Charles Soule to drill down and do that in 12 issues, which he's done. It's easily the best Star Wars comic of 2020, 2025.
And Jedi Knights. I like
Jedi
Jedi
Knights
Knights.
is great too. Jedi Knights is almost the set of standalones. But yeah. So now
I,
I will say one last two things that are two comic uh things that are doing that. The manga.
oh
So there
yeah,
was the
manga's always great.
Path of the Lightsaber. That was really good. The hyperspace stories, not the 4 or 5 issue runs, although there's lots of 4 or 5 issue runs in Star Wars too. If you'd like a character, just pick those up, read those in one sitting. Also, so the Qui-Gon hyperspace stories came out finally. The the Grievous and Obi-Wan are supposed to come out at some point. They've been delayed years, and it's kind of too bad because yeah, that's exactly what you're asking for. Is here a complete Star Wars comic book story in one thing, and yeah, I get that.
I I mean, I legit, I almost wish we could do more manga style thing. But I mean, I feel like the comic
Yeah,
book industry should embrace the manga way.
yeah.
Because what I love about manga, sorry, returning to Tractor Beam 2.0, but
No, you're talking canon. We're talking about canon
but
here.
what I love about manga and what I've always loved about manga is it got the ongoing thing right because this is just volume one.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a single book, but most ongoing mangas are ongoing. The story
Mhm.
doesn't end with the first book. But what they do is that every book, hey, those books can be pretty chunky. But
Yeah.
what they do is like they have it divided in arcs. I mean, some not everyone, but a lot of the manga that I read that are based off
Mm.
of anime
Yeah.
are divided into arcs. So like chapters 1 through 10 or 1 through 7 are an arc.
Mhm.
Chapters 8 through 5 are an arc of the story.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's an
Like
on or
within each single volume, you mean?
yeah, and then
Yeah.
obviously there's the grander narrative that's happening and the characters are evolving
Yeah.
and changing it over time. Um
Mhm.
and I wish just, we could do
Yeah.
that with in fact I am curious about something, Matthew. I've always wanted to
Yeah.
ask you this, and I'll ask maybe Chris this if I ever come when I'm on. Have
Yeah.
you gone back to any of your comics, any of the Star
Mm.
Wars comics you've read over the last few years,
Yeah.
reread them as binge form, in trade form, or whatever,
Mm.
uh, and have you felt like the experience was better?
Yeah. Well, I mean that first arc of Vader. Remember we read we did an episode on that one,
Oh yeah,
and then
absolutely.
I reread issues 1 to 5 before reading Master of Evil.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, would I say better? It's a good question. I'd say
I
definitely
had a
say
better experience with it
I'd say
myself.
different for sure. Here's a good example of when that really happened. This is so Captain Marvel. I think Heather Thompson's run before Alyssa took her on. Uh, I had kind of delayed because I was putting off the sack of comics that I got to read. I read the last 3-4 issues in one go, and it was absolutely mind blowing, thrilling
Hmm.
conclusion. So it's true, right? I mean, when the new Alderaan fleet came up in Charles Soule's ongoing, I went back and read that Leia comic
Hmm.
from 2015, the short run about that. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I don't know if it's better. It's certainly different.
I find
Um,
it more enjoyable myself.
you're not alone. You're definitely not alone, and I can definitely see why. I mean, you definitely get a much clearer sense of the overall story, right? Like
If
I've only
Mhm,
been able to get a better sense of broader story
mhm.
from doing Tractor Beam and having to really think more deeply about things. But yeah, I mean that's another reason probably why the industry is still going in this direction slowly but surely. Yeah.
I also just feel
So
like people would. I feel like comics would probably have more mainstream if they were just graphic novels. I think the graphic novel is kind of the way to
yeah.
go.
Well, I mean that's just it. Like if you go to any um well, if you go to Barnes and Noble, if I go to Indigo, I'm not going to see a single issue there,
Oh god,
right? Those are the comic book stores. I'm going to see the collected editions. I'm going to see the omnibuses, right?
oh yeah.
So yeah, no, it's true. I
I
think
mean,
yeah.
I have Legends comics. Like I got Dark Empire and Crimson Empire. It's like I
Mhm.
always forget that those were released as individual single issues back in the '90s, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I just kept the whole story. Like to me,
Yeah.
that's a novel. This is a novel, more
So
or
was
less.
Watchmen. I mean, Watchmen won the Pulitzer best novel that year. The Vertigo comic. That's the movie, and then the show is based on. The movie is
Alan
closer to the Alan Moore.
Moore.
Yeah, it was really single issues. So
Yeah, I
I think
mean,
in a magazine, is that right? I don't remember, but yeah,
yeah. So it is interesting to think about that.
yeah.
But
Mhm.
we got a little off track by where to get into Star Wars. We can turn this into
Well,
chapter.
yeah. Well, no, we didn't. We didn't. I mean, I think it was good. Like talking about stories, but no, we ended up talking about comic book mediums and how to better get into comic book release issues and those sort of things. So, and that's another thing that's nice is a lot of these comics. If a comic is done, just you know, you can get it on Kindle, get it at the library, um, whatnot.
Yeah,
Go to your local comic book shop and order it in, or get the back
read the
issues. You know,
get to read the
um,
trade.
yeah, get the trades. Uh, I was gonna say there was one more thing I was gonna say. I forgot. That's okay. It'll come to me. But um, yeah, comic books. Anyway, that's
Was it
okay.
about comic books or about just Star Wars in general?
It was about Star Wars books, novels, comics. I forget. That's okay. But that means
Um,
maybe it'll come back to me. But anyway,
Definitely. I'll think of something for you just while you think about
yeah.
it for a little bit. I mean, um,
Mhm.
I definitely feel like most of the books and comics are made with you have watching something on screen in mind. I,
Oh, sure.
I, I think
Yeah.
that's definitely something we both agree on. Um, which is why I think that's why I say watch some screen Star Wars first, and
Yeah.
then if you kind of want something to kind of in between, or like you want a deeper maybe look at
Yeah.
something, or maybe a kind of a more in depth look at the galaxy, then it's like okay,
That's what I
here's
was gonna
some
say.
books and comics.
I got back there.
Okay, good.
The tales, not the tales of uh the Age of R books, Age of Republic,
Those are fun.
Age of Rebellion, Age of Resistance. Those are all one shots
Mhm.
on different characters, and there isn't really a through line except that I mean, Age of Republic is by Jody Hauser. I forget who Age of Rebellion, Age of Resistance are by. if there's a single character in Star Wars that you like, or an era, they're each 12 issues. They're 12 issue anthology series. Pick those up. Those are all done. And then there's each one has a special that is a few characters, kind of like an annual. So yeah, that I also, another thing to recommend is what I was gonna say.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
The Age of Republic Qui-Gon is actually one of my favorite comics. Qui-Gon basically can feel the end of the Jedi and in the Clone Wars and everything afoot in the next few years. And also the Jango Fett one, Age of Republic, is really a Boba Fett one. So I'll say that.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But yeah, I think that's it. Unless you have anything else.
Nope. I mean, kind of to give again my cop out answer of just put it on TV and see what somebody is attracted to it. Unless you really want to do a overly controlled kind of experiment, which is always kind of fun. Yeah, that's definitely how you can get into Star Wars. I don't know if we've answered it or not. I think we just made ourselves more confused.
Here's what you do. Is you join the Underworld Discord server.
Yeah.
You ask everyone, I like this. What do I do? My friend likes this. What do you recommend? That's what you do. You follow us on social media.
Yeah, follow us on social media. I'll give you an answer.
We'll give you an answer for sure. Give you a recommendation. But that's a good place to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Watching after the fact, listening, etc. Let us know what you thought, what you think the best on ramps are of all Star Wars, and coming out in 2026. Comment below because those boxes aren't going anywhere. Please do give this video a like and a share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Joel, speaking of where can people ask you for advice on Star Wars and maybe life?
Yeah, you can find me and ask more of my advice on Star Wars on at JID20234 on bluesky.social. Again, at JID20234.bluesky on social. You can also ask me at the Star Wars Underworld Blue Sky, which I also run, and of course the Ion Canon Blue Sky. Ion Canon Bisky.social, and of course, Star Wars Underworld Discord, where you can ask me and I will respond with a recommendation right away.
And
so I'll try to narrow it down as much as possible.
There you go. Recommendation for universities in Orange County. That's a bit of a joke.
We don't really have any. We only have them in LA. No, we got Cal State Fullerton. Never mind.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's a bit of a joke. But recommendations for flavor of ice cream. There we go.
Yes.
And Star Wars stories. You can ask me. You can follow me personally on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at MNUG1138. Of course, ioncannon.biscuit.social and tractorbeam.biscuit.social. We are taking a break this week, but next week we are coming back with some sequel era books, including Hunt for Han Solo and Legacy of Vader #11, with that bonkers cover that would win Adam Driver an Oscar if he performed that face. Derek Chu cooked on that one. Check that out Wednesday, December 10th, and then right back at this coming next Monday, as mentioned, right here, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Master of Evil. We're going to give our full spoiler review. Ash is joining us for that one, and it'll be I think first time we'll have someone on who is mentioned in the acknowledgments. There's a first. That's pretty funny. So there we go. Gonna chat all about Darth Sir Lord Vader and Holland Goth, etc., etc. So please do come and check that out, Joel. Until then, let's blow this thing and head home.